Family, Adam Eaton, Sons of UCF, and of course, part of our Big 12 newsletter now. He's part of the team. Super happy to have Adam on board. Craig and I have both been guests on the Sons of UCF podcast. They do a great job. Let's just get right into it. Before we talk about expectations for the season down the line, Adam, you're locked in for a game tonight against Jackson State, a team that is kind of like nebulously terrifying in that they keep losing coaches and they keep kind of like staying the same level. And it's a good test for UCF right out of the gate, isn't it?
It sure is, Paul. I call this one the nobody knows anything bowl, right? Because UCF 60-something new players. Jack State obviously went through a roster reinvention as well with Rich Rod leaving and Charles Kelly coming in. So not a lot's known for about either team. So this is a tricky first game. Scott Frost said that as well this week because you can't really scout tape. Are you going back to, 2 seasons ago, 2 coordinators ago, two schools ago, right? So this is a really you don't know anything bowl, but obviously UCF has to be prepared. Jack State obviously is a team, to your point, Paul, that's always ready to play, even though you may not know the roster. Gavin Wimsett, the quarterback, has got some experience at the P4 level at Rutgers and at Kentucky. So it will be a tricky spot for a Knights team that we don't know much about either, right? Because there's a lot of newness there. So if you're tuning in tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, it's the Get to Know Everybody Bowl because everyone's still trying to figure out who both these teams are.
Well, and UCF, we at least now know they've got their starting quarterback, Cam Fancher, named earlier this week by Scott Frost as the starter after a battle with Taven Jackson, Curry Brown. And I guess kind of what's been the response to that? What was your response when you saw that? I assume there's probably some indication like, hey, it could go this way. But when it did officially, kind of what did that create in your mind as far as what to expect moving forward?
Yeah, not a ton of surprise. Last couple of weeks, you've kind of heard from Scott Frost, some other folks inside the program, that it was maybe trending this way. I think what it tells you guys is, Scott Frost right now is valuing somebody who's got experience. Cam Fancher's made, 20-something plus starts as time in Marshall at FAU. So he's valuing that experience. And from what we've heard, he's been the most consistent, right? So, he maybe isn't making the big splash wow play that you may see from quarterbacks, but he's also not doing the thing that's catastrophic. And I think that's a word Scott Frost has used a lot, is not making catastrophic plays. I think that's what Cam Fancher's provided. Talking to Cam, personally, he's told me he feels really good about the playbook. He feels really good about the system. He feels like he's grasped the system. So I do think that probably gave him a little bit of a leg up on the other guys. But listen, I don't know how close you both follow social media. UCF put a graphic out that announced Cam Fancher as the starting quarterback, and it said for Jack State. And so I think that leads us to say, guys, this quarterback competition is probably not over. My guess would be you'll see another quarterback play tonight. And Cam Fancher may be the first one out, the first one who's kind of earned the opportunity to earn this job. But I don't think Scott Frost will be afraid to play one of the other guys, if not both of them, in this game. And with UCF's schedule, they open with Jacksonville State, then they have North Carolina A&T, then they have a bye week. Then they have the Fighting Bill Belichick's of North Carolina. So you might see this drag in the first 3 weeks of the season, including the bye, and perhaps you won't know UCF's official starter until the September 20th contest against the Tar Heels.
You said you got to get to know everybody. Is there anything that you are sneakily confident about without full information?
I think the running attack, Paul, is going to be good for UCF. Myles Montgomery flashed a ton last year. He sat behind a guy named R.J. Harvey. You may have heard of him. He's not
yeah.
Broncos, right? So, but he flashed in the opportunities he had to back up R.J. Harvey. Jaden Nixon, a former Big 12 player at Oklahoma State, comes in. He's got a ton of speed, and he's got a ton of experience as well. So I think UCF will be able to run the football. I think they'll be okay from the running back position. Can they block up front? I think that's another story. I think the other element is the defensive line. I mean, they've got a ton of talent coming back on that D line. Nigel Lee Kelly is a name you hear a bunch on all Big 12 lists. They've got a guy in John Walker, the highest recruit in history, is coming back off injury. They got a guy in Sincere Edwards who had a good freshman season at Pitt. So I think the D line will be impressive for the Knights, and I think they'll be able to run the football. Again, the passing game may be still in question, but I think you can count on Myles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon to be able to take the rock and get UCF some tough yards. And I think that's what you'll see out of Scott Frost early on, is establishing the run, giving Cam Fancher some time to maybe settle in and then make some throws down the field as the defense presents itself.
I really liked the Jaden Nixon pickup. He's a Texas guy. He played at Oklahoma State there for a little while and then had some big performances at Western Michigan last year. I think that was an excellent pickup to pair with Myles Montgomery.
Yeah, almost 1,000 yards last year, Craig, at Western Michigan. He's also going to return kicks for UCF as well, too. So,
Nice.
In talking to Myles Montgomery, I asked Myles to describe Jaden Nixon, and his word to me was speedster. And so, again, UCF fast was the mantra last time Scott Frost was here. He's bringing that back again. I think Jaden Nixon, to your point, fits that to a T, right, with what he can bring from an offensive perspective. So I think they bring a good 1-2 punch. They're kind of different runners. I think, again, Myles is more of a want to bull you over, knock you out kind of guy, even though he's 5'8", 5'9" in stature. And I think Jaden can turn on the speed when he needs to. So I think this running attack could be sneaky good for the Knights.
I know that most fans aren't sad that Gus Malzahn left and went to Tallahassee. The relationship ran its course. What do you think in the immediate will they miss from him that will eventually get solved just over time and transition?
It's a good question. I think for all of Gus's maybe quirks as a play caller and as a program runner, he did a really good job in two areas. One, he was really good at fundraising. Gus was out and shaking boosters' hands and shaking donors' hands and talking to people. And I think UCF saw a boon from a financial standpoint in Gus's tenure. Gus was also really good at recruiting, but this is a tricky one, guys. We talk about this all the time. Gus was able to go out and get the 4-star guys, maybe the kids who, weren't considering UCF in previous seasons. Gus was able to get in those living rooms, talk about Auburn, talk about beating Nick Saban, right? And I think he was able to get some kids at UCF. Scott Frost hasn't really had that success yet. The level of 4-star recruits under Malzahn to Frost, the ratio is very much skewed right now in Malzahn's favor. So I think those are two areas where Gus was really strong for the Knights. I think he was really good at fundraising off the field. And I think he was great in living rooms. Frost is a little bit different personality. I know you guys talked to him at Big 12 Media Day. He's not going to be the kind of guy to walk over and give you a big hug and flash a big smile at you like Gus Malzahn is, but he's got a sneaky, quiet confidence and a swagger about him that plays really well when your team is playing really well. So I think what Frost needs is this Knights team to maybe surprise some people and have a good season. I think he can catch up quickly in both those areas.
Yeah, he's not a Joey Maguire or Rich Rodriguez personality-wise. Like, those would be the polar opposites for me. And when we talked back then, I remember just didn't know what to feel about Scott Frost, and kind of got like a weird vibe, but not necessarily in a negative way. I just didn't really know how to describe it. He's learned lessons. Life has moved on. UCS had their time away, and so has he. And just what does it all feel like now, Adam? Like, is it just uncertainty driving the car right now, or how would you describe what the anticipation level or the feeling is in Orlando when it comes to what they're looking at this year?
I've kind of framed it up, guys, as a good argument between your head and your heart. Right, because for UCF fans, Scott Frost brought for them the best seasons of their life in 2016 and obviously 2017, right? So your heart says he's coming back home. He's back where he belongs. He's getting the band back together. Mackenzie Milton on this coaching staff, right? So he's getting everybody back together. It just has that nostalgic vibe of 2016, 2017, right? Then the head kicks in and you go, well, there are some struggles in Nebraska, some struggles in one-star games. This isn't the American Conference anymore. Now we're in the Big 12, 63 new players on this roster. So I think there's optimism that he's back. I think it feels right for Knights fans to have him back wearing the black and gold polos and, talking about UCF again. But I think a fan who's informed says, hey, there are some ways that this can go badly, but I think everybody's just excited that he's back. And look, the next coach is always the savior of the program, right? And obviously things, to your point, Paul, did not go well under the Gus Malzahn era. So to not only have somebody new, but have somebody come back that was a part of memories that Knights fans have, they'll never forget. There's a ton of nostalgia, but let's see how that plays out in 2.5 hours when we kick the ball in the air and all of a sudden we're playing the team and we have to see how the team looks on the field.
How do you think Gus will do going back to just a play caller role?
That's a great question. Like, I think if I had to be critical of Gus Malzahn's play in Call of Duty, and to be fair, Gus has called more football plays than I have, right? I think what Gus does is, he does a good job of getting his playmakers the ball, but I think he gets really predictable at times. A lot of jet sweeps. Florida State, get ready for some jet sweeps in your life because Gus is a huge fan of the jet sweep. My criticism of Gus has always been when it's time to do the thing that you need to do to get 1 yard. It's 3rd and 1. It's 4th and short. I feel like Gus always tries to trick the other team as opposed to going with a play that he knows works. UCF fans will remember 2023 at Oklahoma. UCF rallies back to come to a late touchdown. They have a chance for a 2-point conversion to tie Oklahoma, and we decide to run a wide receiver pass to a quarterback in the end zone. When you have a guy named RJ Harvey, by the way, and you have a John Rice Plumlee, who was a heck of a dynamic athlete. So I think Gus always tries to maybe out trick himself. It's funny with Thomas Castellanos, too, by the way, who was at UCF with Gus, leaves Gus to go to Boston College, then comes back and reunites. Curious to see how that marriage works out. But Gus has always just said he's an old football coach. He's an old ball coach, wants to call plays. And so we'll see how his system plays out. But I think, again, he gets predictable at times. And Florida State fans, watch out for the trick plays because they come out of nowhere and sometimes at the worst times as well.
Adam, so what do you, I mean, obviously a win tonight, but like, what do you think is success in year one for Scott Frost? How should people measure what they're watching? I know it's hard to tell fans that like, hey, you have this new coach. He won here before. We know he can do it, but circumstances are certainly different than they were in the past. So you have to take that into consideration. So what is real progress that fans can watch for?
Yeah, if you want to look in the standings, guys, it's bowl eligibility, right? Get flirt with bowl eligibility, get to that 5, 6, 7 win mark where you may be eligible. But I think more than that, reestablish the identity of the program. Are we UCF fast again? Can you do some of the things you used to do? I think those are the things that some Knights fans be looking for. But if you can get that 5, 6, 7 win ratio and you're flirting with bowl eligibility, I think that would be a huge step forward in year one for Scott Frost. But we've been telling fans on the newsletter, I heard Craig you talking about earlier, you know, the wins and losses may not just be in the wins loss columns this year, right? You may have to look at other ledgers to see how UCF's building. But I think if you get to that 6 win mark, Paul, I think UCF fans will be pretty happy in year one going back to a bowl game.
Yeah. Adam, thank you so much. Between you and our next guest, Chad Brindell, I'm going to crown the air because the Cowboys have just traded Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
Well,
yeah.
He's so stunned, Adam, that he's looking for you to react for him because he has no idea.
I'm also a Cowboys fan, so that is not good news for me either. And
you are?
I am. I'll never forget where I was when I heard this news. So I'm glad I could share this heartbreaking moment for you. I'm effortlessly trying to figure out what we got back in return. I hope it's everybody.
Hold on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
It is. I just saw his contract that they've already reached with the Packers.
Oh my gosh!
Because the Packers talked to his effing agent. 4 years, $188 million, highest paid non-quarterback in the league.
Wow.
Jerry's gonna
yeah. Adam, I'll have to have you on the all-new but refurbished Catalina's Cowboys.
Yeah, now you got a Cowboys guest that you can have on as well. You guys can go talk about this, but I might need to take over the show so y'all can go to your corners and figure out what you need to figure out emotionally about this because, wow.
Hey, Garrett, where's Big Papa's medicine?
Yeah, there you go.
It's right over there, I think. Yeah, okay. Adam, thank you so much. Enjoy the game. We will talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.